Hi, everyone. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Tomoya, how you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
All right. Let's talk about Otani. What are your thoughts on Otani's performance so far this year?
It's been pretty steady. I mean, he's had some rough stretches at the plate and really only one bad start on the mound. But for the most part, he's been pretty consistent. He still offensively hasn't really hit homers at quite the level that he did last year, but he's still on a pace to hit more than 30, which is plenty. And, the offense is kind of down throughout baseball this year. So, that's to be expected a little bit. And pitching wise, he's been probably better than he was last year, in terms of not walking people and, some of the issues he had at the beginning of last year, he really hasn't had. So, his velocity's been good. He's been using different pitches. He hasn't had any kind of a issue health wise that's prevented him from starting. So I would say it's all going pretty well.
You talked about offensive numbers down throughout the leagues. Is that mostly due to the change in the ball that they use?
I think that's probably a big reason for it. They have a humidor now in all of the ballparks, which makes the balls more consistent, keeps them from getting dried out. I think the ball also might be a little bit different just in terms of the way it's assembled to decrease offense a little bit. We really have to wait through till we get through the whole season to really see what the impact is going to be of all that. But right now, definitely there is a decrease in offense around baseball.
In regards to Otani, we were expecting his numbers. I mean, many of us were expecting his offensive numbers to go down a little bit, right? Considering how good he was last year, and it was hard. It was easier to go down than go up.
Exactly. He couldn't have really gotten much better. So, and it's tough when you're a hitter because the pitchers really can study you and they can, find what your weaknesses are. And, definitely if you have any kind of a little slump or a little bit of a problem, they will find it and take advantage of it. He did have some issues earlier in the year, and he also wasn't really walking as much as he did last year, which is sort of a good thing. At the end of the year, he was drawing a lot of walks just because teams were not throwing him anything to hit because it was the only guy in the lineup. Now he's got those other guys in the lineup behind him, and they were throwing him some more strikes, and he was just swinging a lot. So he was striking out a lot and not walking very much. That's kind of changed as he's gone on. He's striking out less and walking a little more now. So it's all getting closer to what we would expect.
On a scale of A through F, what grade would you give him so far?
Well, that's a tough one because there's really nothing to compare him to. If we're comparing him to last year's Otani, that's a pretty hard standard. But if we're comparing him to anybody else, there is nobody else to compare him to. So I would still probably give him an A, just because still what he's doing is incredible. And, it shouldn't diminish what he's doing this year just because last year was even better. This season may not be as good as last year, but the fact that he's an above average hitter and an above average pitcher, period, is incredible. So even if he's not like as far above average as he was last year, it's still pretty incredible. And, he's still, I would still give him an A.
It's easy to forget how ridiculous last year's numbers were, right?
Yeah. I think if you go back to like 2019 and look at the offensive player he was then, he's kind of in line with that prior to, and then in 2020, he was really bad. So if you want to compare him to like what he was prior to 2021, you'd say he's doing great. But it's just, it's hard if you're going to hold him against the standard of what he did in 2021.
And some people compare him to how Trout's doing, who's hitting behind him. And then, Donnie's not as good as Trout. But then Trout is the best, is one of the best hitters. So that's
Trout
unfair,
doesn't
right?
pitch. So
right. Let's look at his numbers. Here are his hitting stats going into May 25th. He's played in 43 games, 118 plate appearances, 9 home runs, 28 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 3 caught stealing, 15 walks, 44 strikeouts, 256 batting average, 319 on base percentage, 459 slugging, 778 OPS. What numbers stand out to you?
It's all pretty good when you compare it to other players in the league. I think the OPS, I feel like, is the best kind of single number to encapsulate your offensive performance. And I think the major league OPS for everybody is is like 680 right now, something like that. And last year it was about 730. So that tells you the decline right off the bat. And Ohtani is still 100 points better than the average. So that's still pretty good. Now last year he was 900 something, 960 I think, that's why he won the MVP. So it's going to be hard for him to get up to that level again, but I certainly could see him by the end of the year being in the 850, 880, 890 range.
That's like all-star level, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at his pitching stats. Here are his stats going into May 25th. He started in 7 games, 38.1 innings pitched, 2.82 ERA. WHIP is 1.02, 12.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, and 2.1 walks per 9 innings. Any of these numbers stand out to you?
I mean, I think the big one is the walks. That's really the way he pitched for the last 5 months last year, where he was not walking very many guys. At the beginning of last season, he was walking a batter an inning, which is terrible. And then he kind of figured some things out and adjusted that the rest of the season. So this year he's starting out the way he corrected to last season. So if he can go through the whole season that way, that's obviously much better. The other thing that's interesting about his pitching is the velocity has been a little higher, which is interesting because I think that we all felt that he had kind of intentionally reduced his velocity a little bit in order to throw more strikes so he wouldn't walk people. So what he's done this year is he's been able to increase the velocity and still throw strikes. So that is pretty impressive that he's been able to do that. And I just think he's been, pretty much everything that they could have hoped for pitching wise so far this year.
And his slider has been pretty effective, right, this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. He will go back and forth where all of a sudden this one pitch that maybe hasn't been one of his best pitches, and all of a sudden it's great. So he had some games where his slider was like the dominant pitch instead of the splitter, and he had some other games where he was really throwing a lot of fastballs, and he's just got so many different weapons that there's going to be something working even if something else isn't, and it's going to allow him to have a good game no matter what he's got.
If he continues to pitch at this rate, do you think he would receive maybe a few Cy Young votes at the end of the season?
That's going to be tough because like we mentioned, with the offense being down, that means there are a lot of pitchers who are having really great years. There's only 5 pitchers that receive Cy Young votes. You have to be in the top 5. And he's not pitching as many innings as a lot of these other guys because he is, going on 6 or 5, 6, sometimes 7 days rest. Well, there's other pitchers that are going like on 4 days rest. They're going to have many more innings than him and maybe even better stats than him. So I think it's possible that he could get some Cy Young votes, but I would think it's probably not super likely at this point.
Anything we should pay close attention to in regards to Ohtani as we get into the summer?
I mean, I just think that the whole question with him is his health at all times. So, last year there were some concerns maybe if he was being overused, because he didn't get hardly any days off. So we sort of looked in, late August, it looked like maybe he was getting a little fatigued. There was a game against the Tampa Bay Rays about 2 weeks ago where his fastball velocity was down a little bit, and he said that he might be a little fatigued. But then he bounced back in his next game and he had his best fastball ever, basically, in his major league career. So so far he seems fine, but I do think that, they're going to have to kind of keep an eye on that throughout the year and make sure that they don't overuse him or get him injured.
Hey, viewers, let us know what you think about Ohtani's performance so far this year in the comment section below. We'd love to know what you think. 日本の皆さん、ここで話しているようなアメリカ流の野球観をもっと知りたいという方はですね、ぜひ僕が書いたルポ大谷翔平を読んでいただけると嬉しいです。すでに購入された方は本当にありがとうございます。まだご購入されてない方はですね、ぜひこの機会にお買い求めください。Well, Jeff, thanks for your input. We always appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future videos. You can also watch our past videos from the description below. Hope to see you again next time.